Hi guys, today I'm here at La Jolla Sport Club with my good friend Israelsson, and we will talk about,
the functional movement screen.
look at this. Okay, so first of all, I want to understand, what you really need to look into when you do this type of a screen.
It's important to remember that a screen is not an assessment. So if you want to assess and be more clinical, there are great systems for doing that. But the screen, the functional movement screen, in and of itself is not a diagnostic tool that is going to give you the same type of answers that you might get from a more clinical assessment. Right? So if you have a shoulder, really problematic shoulder issue, or problematic hip issue, or problematic spine issue, it's probably going to present itself in the screen, right? So that's number one.
Yeah.
But then number two is it gives you a really good starting point for designing a corrective exercise program.
I just want to ask you. I mean, obviously, we are trainers. We are not doctors.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely.
With this type of screening, we don't want to be a substitute of a doctor and try to
100%.
correct movement.
100%.
Exactly. So I just want to make clear.
Right.
Because some trainer, they think probably that doctors, they try to correct movement or force movement into the training when sometimes it's not necessary. Sometimes, maybe the client need to understand that this just the range of motion, he can use it, and we can work around the range of motion instead of force the range of motion, right?
Sure. Absolutely. I'll go through your scores really quickly. The highest priority score is always going to be a score that's asymmetrical. So even if you're really good on one side and just okay on the other, that is more important to us than if you are really bad on both sides.
Makes sense.
Okay, so for you, you had no asymmetrical scores. Okay, so that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Then the screen provides you with a hierarchy of what to address first. So you work from primitive to more complex. So if you have and in the functional movement systems, what's referred to as a primitive mobility problem, that is more important to address first than going to a more complex pattern, even if they have the same scores.
Can you make an example of primitive
and
complex?
So the primitive mobility exercises are your single leg active leg raise and your reciprocal reaching shoulder mobility. So those are just considered more fundamental than if you had restriction in your squatting or in your lunging, or if you had some sort of stability issue with your rotary stability, right? Your reciprocal reaching on your 4-point stance or your push-up. The concept there is all scores being equal. Say you scored 2 across the board. The concept is that you will fix things further along if you focus on the higher priority issues first, instead of jumping to something more complex. And within the hierarchy of the screen, the primitive mobility stuff is more important than the trunk stability stuff. The trunk stability stuff is more important than the complex patterns.
Yeah, because also sometimes we need to understand that for a client that possibly he is not aware of his range of motion, or is not aware of some kind of discomfort caused from a movement, can be a little bit frustrating. Go through a training,
100%.
and just listen the trainer cheerleading him
Yeah,
and
yeah,
pushing
yeah, yeah,
him.
yeah. You can't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of times where I see both the client, but maybe even more importantly, the coach, equally frustrated because you are coaching a movement that has not been earned yet.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
You gotta
and
earn
it's
the
insane.
movement.
It's insane. It's
Yeah.
insane. The important thing to remember, and this is something that's really drilled with the movement systems, the functional movement systems, you should not have to coach compound movements. You should not have to coach a squat. You should not have to coach a deadlift. You can give cues, but by the time you get there, the movement should already be earned. And so what the screen's really good at is saying, hey, is this person even qualified to be exposed to certain movements, or are there some prerequisites that are going to make their lives 10 times easier before we get to the point where the coach is frustrated and the client is
Exactly.
frustrated?
So I mean, we agree that first we need to start with the basic. I mean, there's no reason to put like a barbell on shoulder if your squat is not even in the scope.
This is again what's really important to recognize with the screen. Do you have asymmetries? Probably, definitely. I put a lot of money down that you do. Did the screen pick up on any? Not within the tolerances accepted by the grading system. Okay, and we're going to use the grading provided by the screen as our way of strategizing your corrective exercise program. The first thing to address is your deep squat. Okay, because you scored the lowest score.
It's so bad.
But you'd be surprised. That may be something that is corrected in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Or it may take somewhat longer, but just because you scored a 1 out of a possible 3 doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Right?
Okay, so
Right?
I have some hopes.
Right?
So as you can see, it doesn't mean because you guys see me training hard, and doing crazy stuff on YouTube. I mean, it's not like there is no relation about the way you train and the way your body moves.
Right.
This is completely different. You need to, in some way, be aware of which one is your range of motion. And now that I know that I need to work better on the posture, on the mobility of my hips, I will work
Right.
more on that, and they're going to be like a game changing in my training.
Right. Now that's exactly right. So I would say that what you said is exactly right. Just because you can lift a lot of weight or you have a really impressive work capacity doesn't mean that you move well. However, moving more efficiently and with more mechanical advantage typically will correlate to better performance.
So what we can suggest, I mean, outside of what we do into the gym, to correct this movement. I mean, the movement himself. It's not because I do 1,000 squat I'll get better at doing squat. Obviously, I need some kind of of a program. For example, yoga can help. For example, I don't know,
Sure.
a mobility program.
So, and I just want to be very clear too. One of the grading principles when you grade the FMS is when in doubt, grade harshly. So if you're like, ooh, I think that's kind of a 2. I think that's a 1. Okay? If you're guessing about what it should be, always go to the lower grade. The worst case scenario is you're going to spend an extra day then recognizing, hey, you know what, we fixed this guy from a 1 to a 2. What we've learned today is that the deep squat is our priority when it comes to your corrective program. And for your fitness program, you did really well on everything except your deep squat. So what I'm going to do is if I program exercises to select for your fatigue-based training, so training where we are stressing you and looking for an adaptation where you improve your fitness, not just improve the way that you move, but improve your muscular endurance or your strength or your aerobic capacity, I'm going to be wary of programming squatting patterns to fatigue. Now, one of the really key components when you're working with people with the screen is pain changes everything. Okay? So even if you only have pain during one of the movement patterns, that is a game changer.
Yeah.
Your body is now fundamentally responding differently all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that's real important is if you do have pain during the screen, that is now your priority.
Yeah.
That is now your
Take
priority.
care of the problem.
You got to get out of pain.
Seriously.
Yep.
And maybe professional.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
First
professionally.
thing. So
yeah,
because it can compromise, psychologically your workout, and emotionally because can become a lot of a problem. If you imagine you work out and try to go through the pain.
No, that's not a thing.
That's not a good thing. But imagine how the pain can compromise completely your game because you're always thinking and focus on the pain and emotionally,
consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
That's another talk maybe.
Even if you are incorporating other methods or techniques into your corrective strategy, I love it because at the very least it gives you a system to organize your corrective exercise strategy.
It's good. Thank you, Carl.
My man.
Bye, guys.